Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Greg Gizmo Zord Parker, and you're listening to Lords of the Storm, episode 144, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I'm joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves, Mr. Kevin Multi-Zord Ellis and Ryan TBK Zord Reader. And on this week's episode, the 2018 gameplay update is live, along with Hanzo. Wintervale is here, and we sat down with McIntyre to discuss the changes heading into this season. But before we get into all that, welcome to the chat room. Welcome to those joining us from the Blizzard launcher. And welcome to those sitting in their car, driving to work, listening to us at work. It's a pleasure to have you here. That sounded really NPR for some reason. I don't know why. Lords of NPR. There we go.
Welcome to every generic scenario you could be listening to.
It's a pleasure. While you're cooking your food, your Christmas cookies. TBK, how are you doing tonight?
I would like some Christmas cookies. Actually, now that you mention it, it would be kind of delicious. 'Tis the season. I am having eggnog right now.
Oof.
So I know the eggnog. It's one of those spectrums where you either love it or you absolutely hate it. There's not much middle ground with eggnog.
I like eggnog with a little bit of crown maple in it. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I had some of that recently, but I already ate all my Christmas snacks. I made some peanut butter balls and they were delicious, and some other cookies.
Made some what?
I already ate them all. Peanut butter balls. It's peanut butter,
Gotcha.
Rice Krispie cereal. You roll them up and then you dip them in chocolate. Incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
Sounds too
Welcome to
complicated.
Lords of the
Nope.
Storm cooking show.
Yes. Multi, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, there have been Heroes cooking shows before, haven't there? I seem to remember a few.
They're not.
Maybe.
They're not salty balls. They're just peanut butter balls. They're not chocolate.
Just
salty
peanut butter.
balls.
Yeah, you're right. Gotcha. No, I'm doing well for sure. I think though that you should bake me Christmas cookies and bring them to me, and also gift me all of the Hearthstone cards. So if you want to do that real quick, Greg, please do.
Gift you all the Hearthstone cards. I need
All of
Hearthstone
them.
cards. All of them. You got it. I'll get right on it right after
A lot of
we
Hearthstone
talk some
cards.
heroes here. What have you guys been up to this week in gaming? TBK, I know your answer, but I ask you every week. What have you been up to in gaming?
Well, Greg, I've been playing Heroes. It's kind of crazy, I know.
Weird.
Especially Monday. Monday was a lot of fun. I streamed. It was kind of a last hurrah with the stealth characters, so I had a
Send
stealth
off.
stream. Yep, played all the stealthies. Won all but one game too, which was really fun. And it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird to get used to. We'll talk about that soon, but it's going to be quite the mindset shift for someone who has played a lot of the stealthy characters and enjoys them. But I think overall it's going to be better. It's going to be good. Played a lot last night as well. Tried out some of the new map stuff, some of the hero changes. It's Heroes 3.0. It is definitely a very different game. Or I guess, as some people have said, it is the real Heroes 2.0.
Yeah. It's been crazy. And I'm kind of sad I didn't do what you did and kind of spend a night playing some stealth characters. It never really
It was a
hit
good
me that
nostalgia
there's
night.
no going back.
Yeah,
They're
it was a good
forever
nostalgia.
changed.
That's true.
Multi, what about you? What have you been up to?
I've been playing Heroes when I can. I only got a couple games in tonight post-patch because I was kind of on kid duty yesterday. But you know, I mean, with kid duty, sometimes comes even more time to play Hearthstone. Kobolds and Catacombs is out now, so And the meta's just all over the place. Like I can't keep up with all these experimental decks that are actually doing well in the meta. So it's been fun to just kind of flip between classes I haven't played in a while. Doing a lot of Dragon Priest in there and stuff. So, it's been good.
That's still a thing?
It is. It's possibly better now than it's ever been. I don't know.
It's been around for a long time.
It's been around for a while, but they've got all these new tools to clear in AoE, like this new dragon that does a 3-point AoE to the board, and then they got Psychic Scream now. So, I mean, it's an interesting class for sure if you like wiping their board over and over and then just outvaluing them. But yeah, so Heroes, though, super pumped for the changes. I mean, even just the few games I've gotten in today, that camera, guys, like I know we're going to touch on this again briefly here in a second, but total game changer. Like, I just love how it looks now.
It is. It's very subtle.
It makes a huge difference.
But it's a huge difference.
Like if we played on this and then went back to the old patch, it would feel really weird.
Yeah. And it kind of did. I mean, we hopped in the PTR a little bit, but to actually have it on live and know that this is what it's going to be from here on out, it's good stuff.
It is. It's exciting. And it's there's going to be just a period for me, at least, before I hop into Hero League, besides reasons we'll talk to in a second, just to make sure I get comfortable with all the changes, figure out what heroes I want to take. Like I played a game right before the show where I was Greymane, and I had 12 Merc Camp captures, which I think is probably maybe not the most, but it's up there. I just felt like I was Mercing the whole time because they're so strong now, which is really cool.
Good point.
But yeah, it's been Heroes for me. I did one dungeon run, which 2.5 hours on the last boss. Long story, bugs, all sorts of issues, but I won, so I'm 1 for 1 on Hunter. Hunter's super easy, and I think I got some good draws on the bosses as well. But let's go ahead and get into the show. Before we hop into the news here, a couple patron updates. I want to thank Robert K. for becoming the newest patron. And you, sir, have earned a Zord title. So shoot us a message in Discord, Twitter, email, Patreon, wherever, to let us know what you'd like your Zord title to be for next week's show. And also an update, the Change My Mind podcast last week. That's actually good old Daggone. So, Daggone.
Yes.
So he has gotten his Zord title here. You have been deemed worthy of bearing the Zord title. Welcome to the Zord Lords. Blizz, bring hammer back, Zord, a.k.a. Daggone Zord. Welcome to the Zord Lords, sir.
I love that he's so mad about the hammer changes that he wanted his Patreon title to be "Please bring back old hammer."
Yeah,
Zord.
It's we talked about it last week. Yeah, he was very upset about the changes. I guess he was a hammer main, and while I don't know if they're going to bring those back, well, if you checked out the patch notes, Dago, maybe you're a little happier. I don't know. We'll see. But let's go ahead and hop right on into the news. All right, first up, ranked season has ended. 2017, our final season. But 2018, season 1 has started pre-2018. But it is up, and the rewards are up. Let's talk real quick, though, about 2017 rewards. Apparently,
and people were not super happy about
yes, Rainbow Robot Pony, not one of the rewards, which makes me kind of happy because I wasn't going to get Grandmaster anyways. But, and I'm thinking, surely this is going to be like the next store thing where buy however many gems or quest, something along those lines, gold mount, which means hopefully I'll be able to get it because it's an awesome mount and I really want it. And if you guys haven't checked it out, which I don't know why you wouldn't have because it was all the talk last season, it's really cool. But we have the new mounts and rewards for this season, and we are back to the elemental crystal beasts. And this season is a boar.
And people are not happy about
it. Yes.
Yeah.
A bore. Such a bore.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you guys feel?
It really is a bore. I just got that.
Yep.
That took me.
There you go. I was waiting for a second.
I I was too busy talking when you said it. So
It is definitely not the most awe-inspiring season mount reward to return to Hero League for.
No, not so much. And I mean, they're keeping with the elemental animal theme, and they're doing an animal that, I mean, we just got those BlizzCon boars, right?
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
virtual ticket are going. So, I mean, we've got boars. I don't need more boars. The Raptor was a cool addition, though, when they threw that in a few seasons back. Let's get more dinos. I want a full-on T-Rex now.
Do we have
a boar?
We've got so many other cool things. A griffin mount. We got wolf mounts in there. Let's get some griffin mounts. Those things would look awesome.
I wonder if they will ever go to griffins for the sole fact that Falstad's on a griffin. They don't want to confuse people. That's interesting. I don't know.
Make everybody Falstad.
That would suck. That would suck to lose out on a griffin just because Falstad's.
Yeah. That's true. Oh, I would like a griffin. And we can get different skin tints. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe a parrot. No, there's a parrot in game already too. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
same problem with Falstad.
Yeah.
Yes. Just remove Falstad.
Yes.
There you go. Problem solved.
People don't play him anymore anyways.
I like Falstad. Falstad's fun. F stands for fun. But so the new season has started, but you may not want to start your placement matches. Or if you have at this point, if you're listening to us live, stop. If you're listening to us in the car, it doesn't matter because apparently there's been a bug where people have been finishing their placements and being placed way away from where they were last season, like up to 2 full tiers, I believe. And it's been causing some issues.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. The biggest one that popped up last night, Ferociously Steph, was a Grandmaster, several thousand points into Master, went 8 and 2 in placements, and she placed Platinum 2.
Yeah. That's
So that was... And then there was huge Reddit thread with all these people chiming in. Some people were getting placed. There's gold players who were being placed in bronze.
Wow.
It was,
and even doing fairly well, right? Or
and there's one person who went 0 and 10, was gold the last season, and was placed into low diamond.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Okay. Yeah. No. Nope, not happening.
So everyone was just screaming bug, 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 and then turns out as of like an hour ago or so, Blizzard actually released a statement and said, "Yeah, it's a bug."
Yeah, they did say. Dylan Bates, community manager, made the post. This issue is unrelated to our performance-based matchmaking implementation, and instead is a result of an issue with matchmaking rating seeding from the previous season. So they found the problem. They're currently working on a fix. And once they fix that, they're trying to do the rollout tomorrow at some point. And Hero League, Team League will be down for about an hour. But they are going to reset the progress, including placement matches, on any affected accounts. So there's questions about this. Because affected accounts, I imagine that's the people that were placed really weird. What if they got placed fine? Because technically they're still affected because they could potentially be playing somebody who's gold, but they're in diamond and affecting the outcomes of their games. So it'll be interesting to see if they just go ahead, roll everyone back. It'll probably make some people upset, but some people are going to be upset no matter what anyways.
I think that's the solution, though. That's got to be it, right?
We need just a clean reset across the board.
Yeah. It's like you said. I mean, even if you yourself didn't have a direct effect, you were affected by the people you were queued up against and with. And so, I mean, just coming out with an apology, just kind of saying what's going on and then resetting everybody. I mean, if they do it quick enough, if they really are doing it tomorrow, it's just setting us back a couple of days. And some people will have to redo some placements, but I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's probably better overall if they just straight reset everybody across the board. And just
see what they do,
okay,
though.
guys, ranked season's starting again.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Which, like I said, it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to hop into my placements for a while. I actually wouldn't have minded like a break period this time before the next season starts, just because of how big these changes are. That's with how big of a team game this is. That's putting a lot of trusting your teammates that you're getting matched with, even knowing that these changes have gone into game.
Well, and interestingly enough, there's a lot of been a lot of talk, and there's a poll not too far gone that actually asked people, hey, do you even read patch notes? And a large majority of people don't even read patch notes.
Yeah.
Well, an even larger majority of people didn't even take the poll. So, like, they're not even that interested.
Exactly.
Those people don't read the patch notes.
That's
either.
like a Reddit thing. And there's a ton of people that aren't on the Hero subreddit. And the people on the Hero subreddit are probably more likely to read patch notes.
To even come that far, they're more likely. And if they then say no, yeah, that's a pretty good metric on that. So I mean, and we kind of knew this.
Yeah.
That's kind of why, like, in this show, part of what we do is go over some of the patch notes to give, like, at least an audio version where people can kind of gloss through and catch the highlights. So, but we've kind of, if you've been listening to the last few episodes, you know, we've hit a lot of the main points pretty well ad nauseum so far. But there's some changes we can still cover today, for sure.
I mean, there's been 3 weeks. There's 3 weeks of PTR.
A lot of PTR,
I mean,
yeah.
If you were at all in touch with patch notes, you had a pretty good idea what was going on. It's a bigger issue, and it will be a bigger issue for a while. I mean, just yesterday while I was playing, there's so many people who had no idea about the merc changes. No idea that the night camp, the mage in the night camp, actually provides that aura of spell armor. Mm-hmm. And so when you don't know that, and the team is fighting under that, or on, say, Tomb of the Spider Queen, you can actually take it and push with the web weavers and give everybody in that aura the spell armor bonus. You are so much harder to kill when that thing's going on. And if people don't know to target that because, there's a little aura thing around it, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a tell. I don't know what that means. It doesn't. As far as I could tell, it didn't show that I had a little armor bonus next to my character portrait while I was in it. So I don't know.
But
it's a lot of knowledge that, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. So finding a way to somehow put that knowledge inside of the game client and getting it front and center to show people what the big things are. They've got a nice little video that kind of goes over some of the updates on the launcher, which is great. But, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done when changes this big go live.
Right. Now, that all said, kind of like I harped on previously, if you do know a lot of these changes and are up on the patch notes, you followed it through BlizzCon, you kind of just know how a few of these things work, you can kind of use that to your advantage right now. I mean, I think there is some merit to starting your placements on Thursday, tomorrow, just because, obviously we want to wait for all this stuff to settle, but I mean, there really would be a thing. Like, if you knew to focus the mage in the bruiser camp, for instance, the enemy team doesn't, then you got a leg up. So, I mean, there is something to pushing now, because I think that some of these things, like even just showing the spell armor actually on your toolbar, are changes that they could make fairly soon based on feedback, based on, I think there is a real need to see that armor amount on there, right? But now without all of that in game, take advantage of it if you know this stuff.
I don't know how I feel about sharing this, but I'm going to anyways. So if you are going to start playing some games early tomorrow, there may be a cheese strat out there that you can use. Dunk Train was talking about it on his stream.
This isn't going to get us banned, is it?
No.
Okay,
it's
that's all I care about.
Apparently, it's a super strong, just straight pushing comp. If you get a hammer, a Zarya, and a medic, and you just stay on top of those night camps, and you push with them, with that 3, and medic heals the knight as the knight takes damage. Zarya provides shields, and apparently it's just nuts with the spell, like when people rotate down on you.
It is crazy that we now have a mercenary that provides a big enough bonus that your healer may want to heal the mercenary.
Yeah.
That is pretty crazy.
That's pretty nuts.
Wait, are you healing the knight or the wizard?
The wizard. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Okay.
To keep that spell armor going. But he did say, if you're okay, you can do that if you're okay with winning games and at the same time losing your soul. So.
Well, right, yeah. Pays off that I don't have one in the first place,
yes.
so it shouldn't be a problem.
All right. So Let's go ahead, hop in to the patch. It is now live. Some of the new things that have come out here. Again, Winter Veils here has some quests. It's going to be in 4 parts. First part, play 2 games. You'll get your nostalgic reindeer spray. Part 2, play 5 games. You'll get the Winter Veil War Banner. I want that. Part 3, play 8 games. Red-nosed reindeer portrait. And part 4, win 5 games to get an Arctic reindeer mount. So this
It's cool they got a mount at the end of it.
Yeah, the reindeer mount, was that from 2 Christmases ago, I believe?
I think so.
Yeah.
So it's the
this
exact
is,
one. It's not like a new one.
I think it's probably a new shade.
It's a new tint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
a new tint.
Okay. No, that is cool to end with a result that a reward that people would probably try to push for. I mean, people like mounts.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
for sure.
I like it.
They also, so if you've played Hanzo, you know that there are outlines on the terrain to kind of help you with where your Shattering Arrow is going to reflect or deflect. Then they also added this on to Junkrat and Lucio just to make it easier to see where how your grenades are going to react and where you can wall ride, which I think is good for those type of characters.
Apparently, this is tech they developed specifically for Hanzo.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And also apparently they went through and reworked all the maps to smooth edges out, because there was apparently a lot of like really weird edges that were causing a lot of cases where the scatter arrow hit and went a really weird direction, even though it looked like it should have gone where you wanted it to go. So apparently this tech, and then them having to go back to every map and smooth corners to make it a little more, I guess, quality of life.
Yeah. Instead of
User-friendly.
hitting a jagged edge and it coming right back at you instead. So
I was like, dang, that's a lot of extra work to put into just a hero. And so
Yeah,
it's
like
nice to see they're
essentially
actually
one hero.
The tech. For other stuff.
that makes me feel a little bad for saying how much I hate how that ability works because of all the work they put into that, but I still am not a fan of it. But apparently the buffs to Hanzo that were in last week's PTR notes have helped him a little bit. I've been hearing good things. I have not hopped in on him since the changes. I'm still kind of waiting. I'll probably do that some this week, but
his Q build is, at least appears to be, far and away the strongest of all of them right now. It'll be interesting once we get a little more time and kind of play around with some of the builds, but that seems to be the go-to. I've had a little success with it. Again, he's just not my play style.
yeah, same
He's
here.
really not.
Yeah.
He just feels, he still feels a little clunky to
The
me.
Q is fun though. Like I'm glad to hear that the Q build is the one that's pushing forward, because as an ability, it is really fun to just be able to move and charge it up. I don't know. It's if there's anything that's going to sell me on him and make me choose him over some of the other ranged assassins, it might be that Q. I mean, I know like Dragon's Arrow is pretty sweet and stuff too, but
Dragon's Arrow is really cool. But the problem with Q build, and McIntyre, who we'll actually have the interview with, play that interview here shortly, pointed this out. There is an instant counter to Hanzo and his Q build, and that is Abathur.
Yep.
And it took me a minute to figure out why. I was like, well, what's the deal on this? Well, because to complete that level 1 quest, you need to hit all heroes with the Q3 times, and you're not going to hit Abathur until late game.
right?
Yeah, if you ever see him at all.
Yeah, sure. Especially
so-
at the high level play, that would be very
Yeah,
rare,
that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Interesting to see.
So yeah, good stuff there. Apparently, this change, I don't know how I feel about it, because I really don't know how I felt about it in the first place. I thought I felt good about it after their responses on the Q&A last week, but apparently they have reverted on this. So the walls that were destroyed, if you destroyed the towers and gate, are now not. They reverted that change. So destroying the gate and towers will no longer automatically destroy connected walls.
And it was community feedback that drove
It
that,
was.
apparently. Because as we mentioned last week, they had the Reddit Q&A, and they posted a nice big chunk of text as to why they were doing this and why the little walls were going to get destroyed when the towers and gate were gone. But,
Yeah.
Yep. I'm still kind of torn on this, kind of like I mentioned last week too. But I will say one thing I'm not torn on at all is that they reviewed community feedback and just made an actionable change right then and there. So, which, I mean, we know, we've been following this game for a while. That's kind of what they do. But it's not very often, frankly, that it's in the patch notes where they've got the old change crossed out, and then underneath, after reviewing community feedback, we've reverted this. So it is good to see. It really is.
Yeah. Throughout the rest of the patch, at least in the notes, there's not many more changes. Nova got a few tweaks. Valyria got a few tweaks.
I do want to point this out real fast
on Nova.
because this is important. No, not even necessarily Nova. We talked about the night camp and the wizard being such an important thing to take out now. If you see that enemy wizard on the other team, take him out first because he's providing such a big buff. On the StarCraft maps, the Hellbat camps have become extremely deadly as well, and not a lot of people know about that either, but their attacks now apply a 3-second stacking -5 armor debuff to all targets. It stacks 20 times, so you can actually hit -100 with these guys, which is crazy, and that includes structures. So these are extremely, extremely deadly camps now that you cannot just leave to push. You need to go clear them.
Yeah. And another interesting thing about that, while you never really want to team fight in the middle of a wave, especially if there's enemy mercs, you can at this point. That's going to be something that's going to be really deadly, especially if you have a melee heavy comp, because you're not even going to notice that going down, and you're just going to melt after a few seconds. So definitely keep an eye on that. But Sergeant Hammer here, Dagome, Blizz, please bring back Hammer Zord. I hope you're listening to this.
So I'm only going to call him that from now on, just so you know.
While they didn't revert the changes, she really did kind of get buffs all around. There's kind of one nerf here, which I actually don't know how the percentages work out. But she got a health increase from 1638 to 1720, so almost 100 on health. Basic attack damage increased from 128 to 140, so about a 10% increase in her attack damage. Yeah. However, Maelstrom rounds, her level 1 talent, the damage bonus reduced from 40 to 35. So
is that
still
the one where you do more damage to ranged structures and characters and stuff?
I forgot what it was changed to. It's different now.
Yeah.
I think
Either way,
it's an activatable that I think for a certain period of time you do bonus damage.
Oh, okay. It's probably just to compensate for the extra bonus attack damage, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But either way, that just the attack damage alone is exciting to me.
Hover siege mode. This is a big one because
that's huge.
Yeah, movement speed increased from 25% to 40 because that was slow. That was
you're almost at half speed in hover siege mode now.
Before there was no reason to take it because you were pretty much immobile. Just take graduating range. And
you may as well stand still at that point. Yep.
And then level 20 shrapnel mines armor reduction duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds. Other than that, I believe there were some more AI updates, and then of course we have all of the Wintervale skins, some of the bundles in there. They've brought back some of the old stuff. So if there's,
I've got a little something.
Oh
to
my
say
gosh,
about this.
Nazebo! I just reminded myself I need to get
Nazebo. Go get your Nazebo. You've been talking about it all year. Go get your Nazebo.
Well, should you do it right away?
We'll wait.
No.
I'll talk for like 2
It's
minutes
fine.
so you
It's
can go
fine.
get your Nazebo.
Should you do it right away though? Because question, there is some merit to waiting to near the end so you can see what you actually just naturally unlocked through chests.
That's how I forgot last.
That's a good
there wasn't
point.
chest last time.
Yeah, if there's any you want and you're forgetful about it, or most people have iPhones or Androids, just be like, Google, Siri, please remind me on January 2nd to buy gingerbread Nazebo.
I can't do that with my phone. My Siri broke when I dropped my phone.
Oh,
Siri's dead.
and you probably need to go do it.
Yeah.
Is that the sequel to the movie Her?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anyway, go on.
I do have a little bit of a beef though, because yet again we've got another massive Christmas bundle. We got like the Legacy Christmas skins bundle, which isn't too big. It's 7, 8, 9 things. I don't know.
Sure.
But the actual Christmas bundle is gigantic and costs something like 4,200 gems. Like, good grief, especially for these events. I want to be able to either buy a pack that has one of everything, like one tint of everything, or maybe a dynamic bundle that lets me pick one tint I want of everything. Because if I'm going to be paying, 2, 3, 4,000 gems, dang it, I want to get skins that I'm actually going to use and actually want. I don't want to get one skin with 3 tints, and I hate 2 of the tints. So I want a little more flexibility in some of the gem stuff, or offer maybe a few smaller bundles, because that is just so prohibitively expensive to try and buy straight up. I can't justify 4,000, 4,200 gems or whatever on that big of a bundle with half the skin tints I'm not even going to use or don't like.
And especially around the holiday season,
Yeah.
Sometimes money's tight, By the way, Gizmo, I changed my mind. You don't have to buy me the Hearthstone cards. You can just get me this. That's fine.
Yeah. There's no gifting in Heroes yet. I apologize.
See, that's another thing. Come on.
Melnet gift card, I guess.
Box gifting, and got the Hearthstone pack gifting. I want to be able to gift, at the very least, let me gift some Heroes loot boxes.
Yeah. I really like,
let me gift gems or something.
I really like the idea of having a bundle where you can select certain skins that you want, like for a cheaper cause, or a cheaper price.
Yeah.
That'd be really neat.
Yeah,
I don't know what that would be like systems wise.
Maybe make it a limit. Like, okay, you have to buy 6 skins, or you have to buy 8 skins, but then you get to pick the tints.
Yeah, well,
of those skins.
Here's you have the giant bundle. There's 3 versions of it. You can get the most expensive version that is all the skins, heroes, and all the skin tints. The cheapest version where you get the champions, and then you can pick 1 skin tint from each skin. And then a middle version where it's like, oh, you have 5 extra skins you can pick, so you can get a couple tints of like your favorite skins.
Sure,
I'm sure that'd be a pain to design.
Right now, you're a little limited, because you can either go all in and spend $40 or $50 in gems to get the kind of all everything pack, or you can just buy a bunch of loot boxes and cross your fingers and hope you get enough. And if you don't get that, then you have to just pray that you got enough shards to actually craft all the stuff that you wanted. And so it's really tough, especially with these holiday ones that will go away.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, oh, it's okay, I'll just save up my shards until I can afford it. And with normal skins and normal new stuff they release, that's usually not a big deal. But for these holiday themes things, I would like to see a little more flexibility in being able to get the stuff you want and not have to spend the price of a new game to get it.
Well, and actually, I haven't checked yet. If you buy the big bundle, do you actually get every skin tint variation? Because like I don't think it's quite
everything, but it's a large variety.
That's the other thing, because it's like, obviously I want to get the bundle because it's the best deal, but the hero I really want to play for Halloween, the case for me was Greymane. It's like the skin tint I want is not in the bundle. So then I have to go and buy that skin tint.
Yeah, and GMX in chat has a really good point. Just the system where the more things you buy at the same time, maybe you get a little bit of a bigger discount as you add in more. Like if you do 10 skins, okay, we'll give you a 10% discount or something like that. You do 20 skins at a time, maybe we give you a 15% discount or something like that. There's a lot of ways you could do it.
That said, I would actually probably pay a hair more for the choice. Like if there were 2 bundles that were equal, one of which let me choose my tints and the other one didn't, and the one that let me choose was like $5 more, I might pick that one.
TVK, if it was 10% at 10 heroes and 15 at 20, then you should just buy 2 groups of 10, because then it would be 20%.
We're not.
Why are you mathing right now?
Didn't you learn from the map discussion that you don't talk about real numbers?
You don't math when you're live.
Yeah, don't math. Don't math. It's you just concept.
No live mathing. So real quick before we move on here, just first impressions that the gameplay updates are in game now. I know it's short time frame here, and we'll probably in a couple weeks have a bigger discussion on this on how it's impacted the game. But what's your thoughts so far, TBK?
I really like it so far. It's really interesting because at least in what I've played so far, I really haven't noticed the ammo changes. Like it's just not been something I've thought about. It's like, oh man, there's no more ammo anymore. That's so weird. It seems normal. And I guess that's a good thing.
But I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a huge change, but
feel it.
I didn't feel it at all. So that was kind of good. The camera change feels really good. The stealth changes very much feel good. And it's one of those things, like I was talking about earlier, it's just going to take some getting used to as someone who did play a lot of Nova, Samuro, Valera. It's going to be a mindset shift to, okay, people can see me all the time now, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means I may have to position differently. That may mean I can go and even intimidate, so to speak, a lane just by kind of showing up and letting my presence be known, and just like, hey, or you can even harass a person that can't get you out of stealth. Because
and there are a lot of those.
If you are in stealth, you still have to get hit by an AoE attack or a skill shot to get knocked out and be damaged. And so that's kind of something you have to keep in mind too. Yes, you can see me, but you have to hit me before you can even attack me first.
Indeed, and that definitely feels more punishing on certain characters. And one of the games I got in today was as Brightwing, and I mean, unless you really like land that Q, you're not gonna, get her out there. And so I would see the Valera come up and approach me, and I would try to like aim my Q to get around it, and no, she would just close the gap and get on me anyway. So,
you just see death coming now instead.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and some of the stealthy characters are legit. Now, like Nova, Nova's got some really good tools now. I love that they built baseline damage into her decoy, and you can actually make that decoy really insane, because if you take, you can take some cooldown, mana reduction. You can, whenever you use your one ability now that re-stealths you, it drops a decoy. So by level 20, you can technically have your E decoy, your one decoy, the level 16, I believe, lethal decoy, which ups the damage they do, and then rewind, which would give you a third decoy. So you could technically have 4 Novas shooting at you at the same time at level 20. And it's insane, and I love it.
I feel like that's going back to alpha days. That reminds me of
the
alpha time where Nova was terrifying. Yeah.
Because she used to be able to summon several clones and do a bunch of stuff and have more of a build variety, and she just hasn't had much build variety lately until now.
Yeah.
Cool to see.
The tower changes you mentioned are actually really interesting, because in my games I've noticed, and I don't know if this is just something I'm doing automatically, so it seems like I'm not noticing the ammo, but when you're going in on a tower, it's like you go in, you get one down, and then you get out. Instead of before, I feel like knowing it has ammo, you're trying to kind of just milk it first before you go in.
Sure.
So, which actually could, because, originally we thought maybe some of these changes may extend game times. Maybe that makes you more aggressive when you actually get a wave up there, especially with the globe changes having more survivability, that you're just
has been super aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it's time to push, it's time to push now. I mean, if you got 2-3 people up against the wall, even again, in my limited experience since this new patch came out, that's how we played it. I think it paid off.
Yeah. So
it wasn't about like the long game of draining the ammo. Frankly, that could drag out the game time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and denying the enemies the globes is a really big deal now too. Yeah.
I think it's fun.
You can
too.
actually,
because I'm an aggressive player, so it's kind of like my laning game for the first few minutes.
Solo laners have always had just kind of a little bit of a boring job. It's just kind of, your goal is to either kind of win the lane or stalemate it and not die. I mean, that's just kind of the thing. But now you actually have a little mini game you can play at the same time, and you can actually really help your team by denying those globes, because in doing that, that makes the other person have to play way safer and potentially denies them more XP because they're having to go back more, or they're having to stay back further and miss XP waves because they're so low.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a quest that builds off of globes. Oh, yeah.
I enjoy
Fun
it.
times.
I like it. So, Multi, overall, your impressions, what are you thinking so far?
I'm overall really good. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Heroes 3.0 is just kind of dropping here at the end of the year for us, but I'm cool with it for sure. We haven't really talked too much about the camera, I suppose, and I mean, it's definitely an improvement. It definitely takes your eyes a moment to get used to when you first get in there. So if you guys haven't tried it yet, something to think about. But yeah, it's really nice. I personally didn't have the complaint that I've heard from other people that the previous zoom was claustrophobic. I'd heard of people coming from other games, League and that sort of thing, where that was one of their complaints about Heroes. Maybe it's because I haven't jumped back to League since I started Heroes, Gizmo. But I didn't really feel it. But this I do feel, certainly. I like being zoomed out a bit more. You know, I've said in the past, like when I play World of Warcraft, I'm totally zoomed out as far as I can pretty much all the time. I just like having more information around me. I don't have to see the model of my hero to fully understand what's going on with me at melee range necessarily, and it's great. I really have been enjoying it.
Yeah,
as they mentioned, they made a bunch of new heroes with a lot longer either dashes or reaches or skill shots or whatever, and so this was kind of a byproduct of that too.
It makes even not just the longest of skill shots, but even some of the like mid-range ones easier to land. So I was playing on Karazim for one of my games, super good game, and even just like quickly picking out the target that I was going to dash to, even over walls and that sort of thing, just felt easier because I had a better view of what was going on in general. So yeah, I think it's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if Heroes is the only MOBA you've played, the camera change, it's not going to be, well, it may potentially be like life-changing because, well, you didn't really notice it. It's just a good quality of life thing. Like, it's much better. But if you have played other MOBAs that are further zoomed out, you kind of did feel the claustrophobia in Heroes, and it's just, it feels good. It feels right. And it's not, like, huge. It's not a huge change, just a little bit.
Right.
But it's enough.
Pro tip, you still can feel claustrophobia in Heroes if you put your nose to your monitor.
Yes.
It's
you
true.
still can.
Or you can just zoom all the way
confirm.
Why
you can still zoom back to the old camera. Yeah. I mean, if you really want to.
If you're just desperate to see less, do it.
We should have a night where we just play ARAM, but you have to play fully zoomed in.
Oh, gosh. That's the rules for the next Lords of the Lane. Right
all the better to see the beautiful animations.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That
especially when you're
does
playing
some great work.
Yep.
They do.
That's all there is to it, yeah.
I do have to mention, too, and we talked about it a little bit during the patch notes, but mercenaries are such a bigger deal now. And because you can get several of the mercenaries have been buffed so much that you can get so much more value out of them by pushing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's something that has in the past been like at least in non-competitive especially, it's just kind of a grab and forget. Oh, the mercenary cap is here. We better grab it so that it just does its thing and it doesn't get taken from us. Now, a lot of these mercenary camps, like the Knight camp, like the Hellbat camp, are just so good that you don't get the value, or you can get so much more value out of them if you push with them in a coordinated way.
Yeah. So
that's something I haven't really seen yet, but I'm hoping to see more because that is another layer of strategy that you can do with those camps besides just being like a grab and forget mercenary camp thing.
Yeah, like Greymane's been my main dude for a while now, and that's why like lately I've been focusing on, especially since this patch came out, just getting camps as soon as they're up to and fully utilizing them. That way you can get more camps throughout the game. But I'm interested to see in the coming weeks how the win rates of heroes with bribe are affected, because bribe is even more important now because you can get your camps faster, and more importantly, it's much easier to deny the enemy team their camps that are powerful. So
that's an excellent point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be really cool to see that. Anything else, guys, before we move on to the stuff? The stuff? All right.
Nova's the best.
We're gonna.
What?
We're just gonna move past that on to the stuff.
Okay.
All right. So for this week's HGC
AGC
segment, HGC is still down, but we were able to sit down with McIntyre of Heroes Hearth Esports earlier this week and just kind of talked about some of the changes, 2018 gameplay changes, Hanzo, and just kind of thoughts on the upcoming season here. It was a great interview. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey everybody, and welcome to HGC Talk. This week is super special because we got McIntyre here, and he's going to hopefully give us a rundown on everything between HGC, Hanzo, the new 2018 gameplay update. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about, but first, dude, thank you so much for joining us and lending your knowledge.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with the community about the new changes. Obviously, there's so much to talk about today.
Just a few things.
Yeah. So we'll see if we can go over all of it. Hopefully so.
All right. Well, let's just dive right in then, and let's start with Hanzo. So, what are your feelings on Hanzo, and do you think he'll have a spot in competitive? Because his reaction at BlizzCon wasn't necessarily the warmest in the world, and we did just see a significant damage buff to him on this last round of PTR. So how's he looking to you? How's he feeling? Where do you think he'll have a spot on a team, and do you think he'll have a spot in competitive?
Yeah, so like Hanzo at BlizzCon, I remember I was one of the people too that played him, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. And then I was like, wait, I feel like I'm just not doing anything. But I can provide vision, and I have this cool ultimate or heroic arrow, right? That I can stun and engage with. So when he was first released, I think his numbers were just too low, and to the point that you would hit all of your abilities. And I mean, your arrow, your multi-shot scatter off the wall, all of them hit the enemy, and it would do like 50% of their health, right? So after the damage buff to him, I honestly think that he's significantly stronger now, and landing a Q feels like you're actually doing something. Not only that, but if you're on the other side of the Q, then you feel like you're taking damage, right? So the pressure from the damage buff, I guess, that he can create is actually, I think, substantial now. As far as like compositions go, he obviously has an arrow that's a great engage. So characters that have follow-up to good engage, such as like, let's say, Sulfur Smash from Ragnaros, that's an example that you maybe, shoot an arrow at the enemy team, they don't expect it, it connects, and then you follow up on top of that effect. You really can, find super easy picks with him, especially if you follow it up yourself as Hanzo. And then he has kind of a significant power spike, I would say, with the build that I'm currently going, which is the Q build. At level 16, when your Q can pierce, you start to be able to pierce the enemy's walls and gates while you're pushing in. So before that, it's kind of hard to put damage on the other team if they're behind walls. But once you kind of hit that 16 power spike and you can pierce, you really, I don't know. I've had it where I've done really cool things like play of the game. Like I feel like I'm playing Overwatch, right?
Nice.
Where like I'm shooting an arrow, like his 13 talent. You guys know the reset talent, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you get a kill, you can reset. Okay, like your hop or whatever, your passive. Like I've had like a moment where I literally shoot my ultimate, the arrow, okay, that stuns, jump over the wall, follow up with like a scatter shot Q, kill the person, jump over the wall, like kill another person, jump away and get away. Like really cool things happening with him. I'm excited. I know my team isn't because I just want to play the character only now. So
just to pull off moves like that. Of course.
Yeah. Every draft is like, what's good here? Zeratul is good, and then it's like Hanzo. Like that's what it's like. No, Hanzo is
Insta-lock Hanzo.
Yeah. It's like Hanzo is not good here, but let's try to make him good here.
Now that does sound like Overwatch, though. Insta-locking Hanzo when he's not good. That's what people do in there. So yeah,
exactly.
Checks out.
We're bringing Overwatch traditions to heroes. So
Yes.
Blizzard's doing exactly what they had planned to do with Hanzo.
What situations do you find him the best in? Do you think his like niche will be?
So while like he does have a global effect, right? Kind of. Obviously, shooting an arrow across a map like Warhead from top to bottom lane is just nonsensical, right? It's just like if you hit that arrow,
Super lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like wow, like I shouldn't have. So on maps, where the other team's fighting over an objective or postured on a point, right? Those are the maps where I think Hanzo would be good at, where you can hit those easy arrows, and just kind of have like an easy setup. So an Infernal Shrines, okay, for example, right? The other team's, let's say in my head, I'm thinking middle shrine. There's that kind of choke point on their right side and you're on your left side. Eventually, one of their team or their team as a whole will come through. If you get a good arrow there and then have the Sulfur Smash or whatever to follow up, it's like a disgusting engage, right? But again, like a map like Warhead, if I'm trying to rip arrows from middle to bottom, the likelihood of me hitting that, at that point, you might as well just pick Dahaka and ZN, right? So
sure,
that makes sense.
No, that's really interesting. I'm really interested once HCC started to see when and if different scenarios will happen when he'll get picked for sure.
Yeah, and his stun too. Like a quick little blurb is the way that I look at it is his middle stun, which is I think the 1 second or 1.25, is the same range as his max Q range. So like a little bit less than a Chromie Q. Okay, so if you can think of it that way, like there are angles like on Dragonshire, for example, right, where maybe other team is on the bottom shrine trying to capture it, and you're at your wall and you pull an arrow there, then you'll get a mid-range stun, right, and that's just enough to get the engage you're looking for.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Yep. I'm glad to hear that you think he'll have a spot, because he's really the first hero that I have really struggled with in getting myself to like him, just because I've had issues with his scatter arrow. But I do think his stun arrow is one of my favorite ults in the game. And on top of that, his level 20 talent, the play of the game, I think is incredible and super fun to use, if it can be used correctly. But what are your thoughts overall on the 2018 gameplay update changes as far as competitive, and what are your likes and dislikes?
So I think overall, I personally like them. I mean, my favorite part about it, the patch, is just the zoom out, which is just not really a gameplay change, but it is. It feels really good to play characters like Kerrigan now. Because before you would Q at the target, and then like I would be comboing like at the top right corner of my screen, right? Like, and I wouldn't move until after I'd thrown my combo. So now that the range of the screen is a bit wider, you have a little more flexibility on that. So I've really enjoyed that. But as far as like actual gameplay changes go, the most significant thing is obviously at 1 minute now camp spawn. So this changes a lot of the dynamic on a lot of maps. A big one would be Cursed Hollow, for example. Before, Curse was be like, okay, at 2 minutes we want our gray main to go do easies, and then the triple spawn, right? And it's like now the tribute spawns at 3 minutes always. The camp spawn at 1 minute. Both camps, the hard camp and the easy camp. So now as a team, you could drop the comp to get hard camp at 1 minute and then shove it down mid, right? Because hard camp provides magic resist, which is so hard to deal with. And you have maps like Tomb of the Spider Queen. Okay, this is another map where hard camp runs it down mid, but it just so happens you can sync that up like a spider turn in, and now you have disgusting utility pushing down middle that is very hard to deal with. So not only is your spider protected by the magic resist from the mage or whatever you want to call the guy, your team is too. So I don't like that. I think to me the camp change is the most significant. The game has definitely slowed down because of it. And objective, I think another one is the boss too, spawning at 10 minutes. Like I can't tell you how many times in scrims we've been like, yo, can we do boss? Or yo, are they on boss? And then everyone's like, oh snap, it's not even 10 minutes yet. Like it's impossible for them to do that. Like I think those are the two big changes for me. The camp change and then the zoom out change as far as gameplay goes that I've noticed have been super impactful on the game as far as how it's played.
How long have games been extended by, like on average, in your scrims on the PTR?
So you still have like your like 9-minute games that just like blowouts. Those still can happen. But then I'd say the map that a lot of people will notice goes or feels like it goes long is Towers of Doom. Because around, I would say like 28 to 28, it's the score, let's just say as a regulation, is like you'll be like level 16 when both teams still have 28 health on their cores. And that, because of the slower start to the shots or whatever, right? You're further into the game. And that like affects maps like Sky Temple too, right? Whereas we had this strategy where, you know, we want to just hyper rush to level 10, and then that means we win bottom objective, which means we win the game basically, because now we're 2 levels up and we got objectives and we're snowballing and yada yada. Those effects don't come into play as quickly, so that's what is going to pause games. However, games still close like they used to very quickly once a team wins a team fight. Sort of like, you know, level 18, level 19, you know, we still are getting to that point. We're getting an ace, and then the core is dying. So I guess like the early game feels a little bit slower. However, the games still close out quickly when we get to the point in the game where it should close out, right?
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
And I guess like catapults also do a lot of damage now. Like I just randomly thought about one time I died, and I was like, what the heck? How did I die? And I got hit by 3 katas, and I took like 2,000 damage.
Holy cow.
So, but I think we were like at level 24 at the time. So, yeah, you can get to those points in the game. And then the map objectives start really scaling out of control in that point in the game. Because like Blizzard's obviously like, all right, you know, rapido, like let's go, like hurry up, someone win, and they just start scaling things crazy. So I don't know. I mean, it hasn't felt much different. The only thing that's felt different is that the early game stage is a little bit slower, a little more methodical. I mean, it's not just like hyper rush to this, get 10, win the game.
Oh,
right?
So it sounds like they've kind of achieved their goal of wanting to extend the laning phase then in early game. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, because like you can't like on Cursed or Sky or Braxis, all these maps with these bosses, right? A lot of the time teams will just be like, let's get to 10 quick, we'll get the boss, and then now we're 3 levels up. It's like that sort of idea no longer exists, right? It's like, we can be 16, 13, and now we're ripping the boss, but the other team at least has somewhat of a chance at this point in the game, right? So I like that adjustment, that we're not just like, we have heroics, you've lost, you cannot contest on this objective that is meant to kill your base. So that's kind of cool.
Does the globe and ammo changes play into that too, or are those a little less noticeable?
I would say less noticeable. I mean, the globe change is more noticeable than the ammo change. Like the ammo change you only feel that on like maps like Tomb, where teams tend to shove waves and rotate, right? Because that's how we've always played the map. Because once you got the ammunition, you turned in. And again, this goes back to the whole idea of, you're now level 10. Now you're dominating, right?
Gotcha.
So, but on a map like that, you no longer can just turn in and, they're out of ammo, and now you're dominating them. So if you can protect your walls, you know, there's heroes that get a lot of value out of that. Let's say an Abathur with Mule, for example, right? That can be a real pain now. I remember we were playing SEL, which is like an in-house. I don't think that's the name of it. We'll just call it that because that's what it's always been kind of called. It's just pro players playing like pickup basketball, basically, but for scrims on the PTR. And I remember I was Abathur playing against the Haka, and I just kept muling my top tower, okay? So the top tower is just never running out of ammo because of, you know, obviously just because of the change, but I was healing it to the point that the Dahaka could just not shove in with the minions. So you can never take the keep back on. It was on Towers of Doom. So like that's the thing about the ammunition change, and the fact that, you know, before Dahaka might just be able to run out that tower's ammo and then it just falls. It no longer is that that way. So, and the other change too is the little mini towers are gone. On some maps, that's substantial, like Infernal, Towers of Doom. You can flank now and dive a lot more easier once front walls are gone, because the only thing that your team has to tank is the keep, right? So, like one spider from a Nubarak will tank 2 shots from a keep. So if you use all your abilities, you spawn 3 spiders, and that's 6 shots, right? That you have time to work with. Before, it used to be the 2 towers would ping together. So that's also kind of a cool change, I guess.
Okay.
Unnoticeable by like most of the time, but noticeable when you're in a Nubarak diving and
Yeah, right.
you have 15 seconds to kill the other person.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I had another question for you. I was just curious, what are your thoughts on this new performance-based MMR update? I mean, I know you're pretty much mostly scrimming and doing that sort of thing, but just in general, I mean, what do you think about it conceptually? Is it the right direction for the game?
I'm hoping that with it, I haven't read or listened or like done anything on the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just hoping that what it'll do is hopefully weed out players that are essentially just making it by, right?
Right.
And start rewarding players that are actually being super effective, right? So if I'll use myself as an example, but these are, this is possible for any player. Let's just say I have a Genji game where I have, 14 kills, 10 assists, 0 deaths, right? Meanwhile, I had a Gazlo on my team that was just running around slapping turrets on the ground and had died 14 times. But, I had just played so well on Genji that we won. Hopefully that Gazlo player just doesn't move anywhere, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
I would prefer them to, start to weed those type of players out with the system. And I hope that's what that's designed for, right? Again, I haven't really read anything about it, but
it seems like it would. I mean, in like the quick match world, it could protect against people who just give up in the middle of the match or a troll or all that sort of thing. So yeah. I'm with you. I'm hoping that's the direction. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like from the way they've been talking about it, like he would still gain positive points because it's still more heavily based off of wins,
right.
But he would take he wouldn't get nearly as many points because of the performance. So he'd move up at a much slower rate, which is good. So
I think like the argument too, though, and like what people are afraid of, especially I know like pro players, they're afraid of like the Asmodans that just have absurd siege and absurd XP contribution, right? Like we always use like the rag with Lava Wave. Like a lot of pro players are worried, like, is that what the system will reward? And again, I don't know if Blizzard has answered that question, or we'll see, right? We'll see tomorrow, I guess, right? It should be implemented then.
Right.
Or whenever, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I just hope that the system does start to weed out, I guess, or not even weed out. It doesn't even matter if players are getting weeded out. It's just that players that are doing well are getting rewarded, I think, is what's more important, right? We want the good players to be the highest ranked. That would make sense, right? Sure. Rather than the players that are just playing behind the good players, slowly floating somewhere in between being the best and, being in the top 100 or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. It sounds like if it starts working the way it's supposed to, if you are a good player, you'll start seeing yourself rise much more quickly than you would have, in previous seasons. And this is like at all ranks too, because I know on my stream people complain all the time about, wow, this Masters game looks just like my Gold game. I'm sure it probably does. Like we all have the same issues, and we all feel like at times like we have that one guy who's locking Nova in and just doesn't care and is just running around sniping and missing everything, and it's like, this is just frustrating. So hopefully that type of player will slowly weed them out. Sure.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Switching a little more to the competitive side, the second season of HGC is starting here relatively soon. What improvements has Blizzard made that you like for this upcoming season, and is there stuff that you would still like to see done that isn't implemented yet?
I mean, right now, I don't think there's any issues. We will have the player summit this coming week, or this week, I guess. So that's where we'll really get down to the nitty gritty with Blizzard about the season. I mean, I think everyone, and I think I actually speak for everyone when I say that we really hope to see more lands within our own regions, especially for NA, right?
I speak for most of the NA players when I say, yes, we would like to see more lands as well.
Yep.
Because that gives us all something to cheer for. That gives us things to root for. That gives us events to get attend. That gives us, more recognition to pro players. It's good for everyone, right? And this last season of HGC, while it was good, and I like that Blizzard's being, more serious about the pro league and competitiveness and top teams. I think it hurt that they didn't have those type of events for all the teams, because there's always going to be the Browns, right? But the Browns have fans, and their fans want to cheer for them. So
I know a Browns fan, actually.
Yeah,
Believe it or not.
And just because that team might not be having the same success as others, they still should be recognized as pros. And at times it feels like with the system currently, if you're not top 3, then do you get that recognition as a top team, right? And at times I feel like no. So
Sure.
With an event and land like that, you might have the time, or the other argument that this is just pretty much everyone that shares this opinion as far as pros go. Like lands are more than just us sitting on stage. They are us playing on the same connection, which is significant because, I have scrim blocks nowadays. Teams play one game Central, one game West, one game Central, and it'll be like one game Central, our team wins. One game West, they're a West team, their team wins. Central, we win. West, they win. And it's like, how do we really compare a skill level if I'm playing at a 0.75 delay, right? And you're playing at a 0.1 delay, right? So it's like, that's the other thing about lands that are so significant, and it gives teams the ability to step up in a high pressure situation, and compete. I think it's really exciting. And obviously, in my past with Heroes, I had a lot of success with Naventic at lands, and that was a ton of fun. Some of my favorite memories of playing Heroes, honestly. So,
Sure.
I hope that that's something that they bring back.
And we actually had a listener write in and ask us about that just last week. Why do the casters have more prestige and recognition than players? And we talked about that a little bit, and I think part of that is the lack of lands. You don't get to see the players as much. You just get to see that one player from the winning team in an interview after the game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
True.
All right. So how has the meta shifted in the off season, and did the support changes Blizzard made help in getting away from the double support meta by any chance?
Honestly, it's really hard to say. I still don't think any of the teams really know. Like GCWC just ended, and teams were still running double support, and the argument is, maybe they were just comfortable still running it, right? It just still felt right even after the changes. It's hard to just readjust and readapt. I can say from scrims, we've had games where we played single support and we've won. We've had games where we played double support and we've won. I don't really think that there is a definition of it at this point. However, I do think that it's controlled. It's contained a little bit more, right? Before it was just an outbreak, right?
Yeah.
It was just unstoppable. There was just no reason not to. And now it feels still very strong. There's still supports that do a lot, like Lucio, Monk, for whatever reason. These are characters that they still just do a lot. So they still feel impactful if you just shove a second support beside of them. But I do think that it's controlled, and you can be more creative and flexible with drafts. Obviously, with scrims being so up in the air right now, we've had days where we've just tried crazy stuff and we've had some success, and then we've had days where we've tried crazy stuff and we've just gotten stomped. So it's like there's really I don't know if there's a definite double support is bad, single support is in, but they definitely controlled this situation a little bit as far as the double support bug goes.
Excellent. And I know you were talking kind of before we started the interview about single laners being affected a little bit by the globe changes. So are we seeing changes as far as who's played in lane there? Or is it just better for the heroes that were played in those lanes previously?
So we're talking before basically about now you can fight over globes. So characters that fight and duel effectively are powerful, right? Having the ability to, when the other team, and this happens now, right? In the lane as a solo laner, there will be times where I can see my opposing person looking at their globe, and I'm looking at it too, and we can kind of recognize that, we're fighting for this sort of thing. Because if I get it, then I'm far ahead of him. And if he gets mine, then he's far ahead of me. So, I had tweeted, and we talked about earlier, a character like Tyrael. Tyrael before had huge mana issues, right? Just feels like you cast a couple abilities and now you're in. But if you can cast those abilities, they're so effective. Like, that's why their mana cost, and Blizzard has kept those mana costs so high on him. If you can fight over a globe, then you can win that globe, and now you're far ahead of the person in lane, right? So trading aggressively, you might be able to find an example randomly would be like Zeratul in lane, right? Before, Zeratul has no built-in sustain, right? However, he's very effective at trading damage. He can do it safely and quickly, right? So if you have a character like him in lane, you might be able to bully the other person out for their globe, and then you can get your own sustain from that, right? Just effective trading in the solo lane. With that said, though, I will say that the solo lane is still a lot of the time just like, let's make sure I don't die. Like, if I die, like, my team's kind of screwed. So you're still doing that, but like, you can make slow advances for your team by maybe denying a few XP from your opposing laner if you push up and play aggressive on them. But it's on certain maps that I think it's more effective and impactful. Maps that have long lanes. Towers of Doom is a very long lane, top lane, right? So if you can zone the person off the wave, it's very hard for them to get that XP without just trading damage ineffectively, right? So
okay,
yeah, we'll see. There's more to study about that, right? And the idea that maybe now we can shove Vala in the solo lane, and if she's just auto attacking Dahaka and getting his globe over and over, can Dahaka ever trade up, right?
Yeah,
who knows, right?
Yeah.
So those are some cool changes, I think, that again just haven't been super explored or looked deep into, right?
Yeah, and some of those laning interactions just sound like fun. So I'm on board.
Exactly. It kind of opens up the lane from just being Dahaka dominant because, if I trade into him, he's just going to back in Z. And now I've traded ineffectively, right? What if I trade into Dahaka, make him hit his souls, and then I got his globe, and now I'm trading into him, and I'm zoning him off of the wave, and now I can't get souls, and, that's sort of what we can get and find ourselves getting into nowadays.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next question. And I did kind of have BlizzCon and some of the interesting team comps that we saw out of BlizzCon in mind when I thought of this one. But just in general, so when is it appropriate to draft a cheese or unconventional team comp instead of one that more closely adheres to the meta? And then on top of that too, of those two types of comps, which do you actually enjoy playing more? Do you like to cheese it up, or do you like to stick to the norm?
I think like a cheese comp is viable. I think it's a good thing to have. It's your trump card, right? If the other team doesn't see it coming, then you can just get a substantial lead from it. In my mind, cheese comps don't necessarily mean I'm playing Zagara, Abathur, Murky, right? Cheese comps can just mean that, let's say ETC is very heavily picked, right? Greymane, for example, Genji, right? What if I just give the other team Genji, Gray, ETC, right? Like in their heads, they're thinking, wow, we've smashed this draft. But in my head, I'm taking Murky Abba, and I'm going to counter with these last 3 picks, and the other team just wasn't ready for it, right? So I think the cheese comps are good. They're a viable strategy. However, they're a one and done. You set them up so they're there when you really need them. However, once you use them, and we see this with Roll20, and there's Zagara comp. I mean, there's Zarya comp on Warhead, right? It worked. It got them a win, or maybe it was Team Freedom at the time that ran the comp. It was the Zarya on Warhead where they just get the boss early, right, and then just push. It works one time, but then teams are like, oh, well, they probably are going to try to do this again to us, and how do we beat it? And then they figure out how to beat it, and then it never works again. Yeah. So, so I mean, cheese comps are good. With that said, I personally enjoy playing standard comps. I always have, just because it's more of a skill matchup at that point, right? It's in my mind, the team who's just mechanically better, or their communication skills are better, or their direction in the game is better, right? And I've always felt like with cheese comp, you're playing almost against yourself, because you're putting yourself to a lesser in order to try to like outsmart the other person rather than outplay them, right? So yeah, for me, I've always liked the standard comps, the standard drafts. Just draft good stuff. I come from like Magic cards where I just play meta decks. Yes, it's boring, but like these are the decks that consistently win. And if I'm better than the person I'm playing, I should have a good chance of winning, right? But yeah, I mean, I think cheese is good. I mean, I think you should have cheese, right? It's good to run a rogue deck every once in a while and just blow people out because they don't know you're playing hexproof pump up and you're playing some janky card, right? That works every once in a while, but once people know you're doing it,
they've got
strategy. Yeah, it's kind of out there.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't understand what any of those cards were, but it sounded pretty impressive.
I think for something like BlizzCon, it's good to have a strategy, right? When your back's to the wall, you get that win that wins you $100,000, right? Even if it's 4th to 2nd place. That's where you want to, because after an event like that, you reset. Like now we have Blizzard 4.78 coming out, and Heroes, this is his new update, right? So that cheese strategy is probably trashed. You got to use it once, you got your 1 win on it, and now you start fresh again. So
sure. Speaking of BlizzCon, and just there's been a lot of talk lately about the 3 bans. We know BlizzCon only had 2, and there's been a lot of people kind of gunning for 3 coming up here soon. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see 3 bans as a need, like let's get it in right away, or do you see that as something that could wait until potentially after the mid-season brawl?
Yeah, so I think for me, that needed to be announced like coming out of BlizzCon, right? That's another huge adjustment to the game, right? And we just got one of those within the gameplay. So if they wanted to, I totally would say Blizzard hit us. Like they could even do it tomorrow, and just be like, you guys are doing 3 bans now, and you now have a month and some change to figure it out, right? I don't think that I would have minded that. However, now that it's kind of announced that this is the path we're playing on, this is how we're playing, I don't like spur of the moment. I don't think anyone really does, right? Just spur of the moment changes, and it's kind of Wild West style in the fact that whoever adapts first wins. I guess as a viewer that could be exciting, but as a player, when we've prepped these cheese strats, right? Like, how the heck am I supposed to beat KSV if I can't play my cheese strategy that just got banned out because now they have 3 bans? It's like, yeah, that's where the frustration can come. But I do think at some point moving to 3 bans can be appropriate because there are compositions, for example, Tracer TAS, right, where we're just seeing a ban on TAS. We have to ban TAS because if we don't ban TAS, they'll just take Tracer TAS, and now we're in a pickle, right? But if we add an extra ban, let's say we added a ban after first pick or whatever for each team, then maybe we could, they pick Tracer, they pick TAS. Well, we can ban Tracer now and respond to that pick a little better than just we have to ban TAS first. If we don't, they're going to take this 2 heroes, and they work really well together. So, yeah, I mean, I could see it happening eventually, but I don't see it happening. I would hope not until after the next BlizzCon, as weird as that sounds. But I guess mid-season Brawl, we could see that the transition, as long as Blizzard, again, announces to us as players that, hey, get ready, this is going to happen, you know?
Yeah, it gives you the proper heads up for sure.
Yeah, like a down season at least, a month or so to get ready for it.
Sure.
All right. For people that have kind of been following your journey through, professional Heroes of the Storm, you've kind of been a staple in the professional scene for a while, and then after Phase 1, you're no longer in HGC due to things that are really outside of your control, team disbanding. So the roster split, the team split, another team slot opened up. So what's your journey been like since B-Step? And was the plan always to make your way back to the HGC? Or is it just, it kind of turned out that way?
I think, after B-Step, I was obviously pretty upset. It was frustrating for me, considering our team just all of a sudden disbanded, and then Blizzard was like, "Oh, joke's on you. You and APM are just no longer pros. I'm glad that you earned this spot, but now we're gonna give it to this team in Open that didn't qualify." And it was like everything about the situation was just frustrating, right? There was no happiness. So yeah, it sucked. It sucked. At first, in my head, I was trying to, argue for the sake of just competitiveness. Like, Blizzard allowed me to pick up, at the time, GFE was picking up 2 of my teammates, okay? So they were picking up King Caffeine and K1 Pro. So, I mean, I wanted to, be like, okay, let's just assume that this is a mutual trade agreement, and then we would pick up Crowan and Equinox, and then everything's happy, everyone's happy, right? I don't know, nothing ended up working out. Essentially, our team announced that we were disbanding, and that was that. Like, literally within an hour, my whole pro career was over. And I basically said to myself, do I keep playing competitively? Obviously, I play this game to play competitively. A lot of the times I feel that way. So I gave it one shot in Open, and I think the thing with Open for me was that I wanted to prove that I was still pro, essentially, right? If I could make it into HGC from Open, from the grind, doing all of the lowly Open tournaments weekly, playing 7 tournaments to qualify into a qualifier, into a Crucible, and win that, then I deserve to be a pro, right? And I was able to do that. I felt completely relieved. I felt very happy, proud of myself, essentially. And it gave me confidence. I mean, it really did. Essentially, made me believe in myself more or less after doing so. So, I don't know. Basically, I just decided to give it one more hoorah, and now I am where I'm at. I mean, we were a team that was in Open that was sponsored, which is pretty cool to think about, right? I don't know how many teams have done that.
Yeah.
And now here we are, HEC. Looking forward to the new season. I think we'll be a pretty good team in North America. I think we have a lot of opportunity.
Excellent. Well, I think I would probably speak for a lot of people to say we're super stoked to see you back in the HGC. We're really excited to see what your all's roster can do going into season 2 here. So.
Yep. And is there any way I can buy the rights to a movie about that story? Because that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. I did not burst into tears. But I was flushed with emotion when
Oh, yeah.
when we did qualify. It felt really good. It felt like it wasn't the end for me yet. And obviously I've been around for God knows how long, right? There's a few of us pros that have been around since the beginning and are still kicking, right? And obviously we have a lot of new names since, but it's nice to be one of those names, and to still have the confidence in myself to keep up with the newer blood and the newer names, and hopefully again this season will allow me to and my team to show that you can come from open and you can dominate and you can do well and you can succeed, to kind of give hunger to maybe the new teams that want to go pro and kind of follow their dream.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
And don't worry. We'll take some creative liberty in the movie and make it so that you cry just for a little more.
There you go.
A single tear. Now,
One.
what was the first team? Was it Barrel Boys?
Yeah, it was Barrel Boys. And that's like obviously been my brand forever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought about writing a life story. Me in particular, I've been on so many teams, so that's why a lot of the pros know me at this point, basically. So
Right.
I'm friends with a lot of people because of it.
Which is
But
cool.
yeah, pretty cool.
Yep. So now that you're back in HGC, though, looking forward, who do you see as your biggest competition in NA going into Phase 1?
It's definitely probably got to be Roll20.
Yeah.
And the reason not being that I think that they're better than everyone else in North America. They just have the most seasoned players at the moment. And again, this goes back to the whole LAN argument or discussion that we just had, 20 minutes ago, that, they've played at the top level. They've competed with the top names. They're confident. They believe in themselves. They have the experience. And that sort of builds teams a lot of the time, right? So I'd say that's why I think they would be the hardest opponent for us. However, I do think that it's possible to beat them. And I've never believed that any team outside of maybe KSB, I will say, I think that team is just above everyone, that I couldn't beat, more or less.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good attitude going into it, too.
Yeah.
So just to wrap things up, we always have to ask all our interviews this: which Blizzard hero do you want to see added into the Nexus most, and why?
I think for me, as of right now, is probably, I think her name's Maeve, I want to say. She's the night elf chick.
Yes.
Oh, Maiev?
Maiev, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I'd say that she's probably. So I had high hopes for Samuro, Blade Master. Not necessarily what I wanted and originally in my head. I was very excited. That was my character that I was excited about, but he's been released since. But now she is my go-to. I think like having Sinister Strike, having Fan of Knives, like there's a lot of cool things that she could do.
Sure.
Fan of Knives, I would just love to see cast. And then obviously Heroic would be Vengeance, where she summons the Vengeance sort of queen, and then you got the little ones running around. I don't know. I think implementing that type of stuff, having another mobile. We have so many mobile assassins. Why do we need more? Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna power creep and just give everyone mobility, might as well, right? A blinking Sinister Strike, Fan of Knifing, Night Elf. I don't know why wouldn't I want to play that, right?
Yeah.
That or Dread. We could also add the Dread Lord. I can't think of his name right now, because he has Carrion Swarm.
Mal'Ganis?
Yeah. Basically, he's that, right? Like that's the one in Warcraft 3 that had Sleep, Carrion Swarm.
Yep.
Curse, I think, or something. Yeah, that would be pretty cool, because then we could add a silence effect, and that shuts down mobility for sure. Or just sleeping. I imagine Genji comes in Dragon Blades, and you just go to sleep, little buddy. I would love to do that. So
Well,
maybe
awesome.
that would be an answer.
No, I like it. Yeah, I like it. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights and stuff. But before you go, we want to give you a chance to shout out all your stuff. You do a ton of content, a lot of it through Heroes Hearth, of course, since you're sponsored by Heroes Hearth Esports. So why don't you let people know where they can find you, where they can find your stuff, and kind of what you're working on and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Heroes Hearth is my hometown. Check that website out. It's awesome. Tons of blog posts, stuff that's not even made by me. As quality content just everywhere. But if you're interested in my stuff, I mean, tier list, builds, all that stuff is on that website. If you want to follow me further, Twitter is going to be McIntyre Hodge, Twitch, McIntyre Lol, and my YouTube is McIntyre Hodge, which right now on YouTube, I'm actually doing an A to Z series. I'm going through every single character in the roster, and then I'm doing a replay analysis of me playing, and I'm doing Team League games with my subscribers on my Twitch. So that's happening right now. Yeah. And if you're looking for, I don't know, maybe you've never played a game of Alexstrasza and you want to watch me play her and talk about why I'm doing what, that would be a good place to look. So that's basically all my stuff going on right now. Check that out. It's really good. Again, if you're looking for high level content, my content's focused more on competitiveness. And this A to Z series, I guess, would be more towards a beginner level. So that's something new for me, but I'm trying it out and we'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
Excellent.
HOTS could always use more content.
Yeah,
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we wish you and the rest of the team success in your journey into Season 2, Phase 1.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. All right. So that was a super fun interview to do. McIntyre is a great person. I've had the pleasure of meeting him at the past couple of BlizzCons here, and it was a blast just to sit down, talk some Heroes with him.
You can tell he loves Heroes.
He does. He's super passionate about it.
He loves talking about it
for so long. I mean, Barrel Boys.
Yes.
You'd have to go back a few episodes to when we were talking about the Barrel Boys. So.
That's back
in the teens or the 20s, probably.
Oh yeah.
That's back when the Zords were competing in the what was that tournament? The something Titans. Titan Arena. Titan Arena.
Yeah.
Didn't go so hot for us, but that's all right.
Nope.
It did not.
Nope.
He brought up something we actually meant to talk about in the patch notes that are not in the patch notes, and then I forgot, and then he talked about it, reminded me. Undocumented changes, potentially. Bosses. So apparently they were spawning at 10 minutes in PTR, and I don't know if anyone in chat has experienced this, but apparently they're back or at 5 minutes now, and we don't know if, or haven't experienced yet, if on like Cursed Hollow, taking one boss still despawns the other boss. So that would be an interesting, and again, they never documented those changes in the first place.
Which was already kind of weird.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It seemed like stuff they were testing and potentially just slipped onto a build. I don't know.
Could be. If anyone in the chat knows for sure over the past couple of days, try to let us know.
Yeah, but we'll keep our eye out. Surely we'll see it.
We get it confirmed for next show.
Yeah, and it did not despawn on Warhead, says Archives, so we'll see about Cursed Hollow. Who knows? But yeah, make sure follow all of his stuff. We'll have the links in show notes, hopefully, and yeah, it's really, really good content. He just released a tier list as of the patch drop yesterday that he will update next week. So it's really good information there if you're looking at who you want to take on your roster leading up to your placement matches. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and move on to TBK's community content shout out this week.
Well, speaking of tier lists, this is something I like to mention every once in a while. JHow also keeps this absolutely massive tier. It's a per map tier list that he updates with every single patch. It's absolutely insane how much information and time and effort he puts into this. But I linked it in chat. It'll be in the show notes if you're interested in taking a look at that. It's really interesting, and it'll really help you, especially if you're in a team format, to try and form comps around, or at least give you a really good starting point of, where things are and maybe how to go about forming a comp for a certain map. So definitely go check that out. Also, for those of you that asked, last episode, we did a really cool special topic on map making. And we shared some of our map concepts. Multi had a really sweet Hearthstone board idea. Gizmo talked about Silver Shard Mines, and I went over a rather lengthy Aldrich Valley concept. But for those who have asked, I actually put it in article blog form on Heroes Hearth. So if you're interested in taking a look and reading the full layout of the Aldrich Valley map idea, we'll have that in the show notes. And let me know feedback. We love feedback on that. I've been doing a lot of like Battleground hero concept stuff lately, so I love hearing back from those things.
Absolutely. All right, so now we have time this week to get to some listener questions and emails. All right, Multi, our first one here is from Shardstorm.
Indeed it is, and Shardstorm writes, are you guys going to jump straight into Hero League or wait to see how the meta shakes out with some of the changes? And I think we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier in the episode. I, for one, at least in particular, did not jump straight in over the last couple of days. And I do kind of want to see how it shakes out a little bit. I'm kind of the camp that believes, though, that when it comes to pushing the Hero League ladder, sometimes it's better to play the heroes that you in particular are really strong on instead of just following the meta. So I'm going to try that as I do a little bit of my push this season. Just falling back on, again, some of the ones I'm comfortable with. But, yeah, I'm going to give it a little bit. I'm in no real crazy hurry. And, I've got a lot going on these days anyway with the new kids. So what about you guys?
So I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm kind of waiting to not only see how the meta shakes out, but just get comfortable with the changes, and not just myself. I'm wanting other people to get comfortable with the changes because, like I said, there are a high percentage of people that don't read patch notes. They don't follow game news. They just play the game because they enjoy the game. And, it could cause some issues teaming up in solo queue with people not expecting these changes with the impact that they're going to have on the game. So it's going to take me a little bit. TBK?
Yeah, same here. I mean, we had the whole, oh crap, placements are bugging out. So that was just one reason to say, oh man, right. I'm glad I didn't start up right away. I do plan on jumping back into Hero League this season, mostly because of the performance-based matchmaking stuff. I really want to try that out. It seems like one of those things, if you are a decent player and you're constantly working on improving, then you should, in theory, see a faster ladder climb compared to previous seasons. And as someone who doesn't have as much time to play as some other people might, that's very appealing to me. And so that gives me a lot more incentive to play my best every game as well, regardless of win or lose. So I'll probably jump in. I'm probably going to give it a few weeks, I would say, just to kind of adjust to the new laning changes, the patch changes, and kind of pick some heroes that I want to fully get comfortable with to bring into ranked as go-tos from each role so that I can flex a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited to jump back in.
Absolutely. All right, we got another one here from Kirith Kodachi.
Yes, who writes, probably a noob question. By the way, it totally isn't. It's a good question, and it's something we haven't actually talked about in a little while. But anyway, going back to the question, probably a noob question, but how does one deal with the scenario where one team is rolling in a 5-hero death ball? What's the standard response to that? Form Voltron with your teammates? Push the empty lanes? I've only done quick match, so maybe there's a better coordination in unranked and ranked. Now, here's the thing, and I'm interested to hear what your guys' response is on this as well, but this is kind of pulling from my personal experience here. I can't speak to too many standard responses to it because, it kind of depends on any number of factors from what point in the game you're at versus even the map specifically, like how to handle these types of rotations. So, I mean, a general rule could be something I've seen in a lot of my games. If it's early and early mid game and they're already doing the death ball, then they're just missing out on soaking. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but and you'll see it happen, right? You'll get in a quick match where a team just tries this because they've got this kind of designed to do it. Or maybe they get like a really good gank off in the very, very beginning and just kind of roll with that for a while. So you'll totally have the guy on your team that's getting frustrated and saying things like, well, they keep ganking me here up top, whatever. And then you're down there going, well, but look, we're a level and a half lead because we've actually been pushing the lanes and soaking and rotating properly. Now, I will say, there comes a point sometimes, even in those scenarios, where if they're pushing that hard, like, they try for the gank, then they just start wailing on your fort. I think there is some merit to sending 3, 4, maybe even your whole death ball up there to respond to it, even in a quick match setting. Because sometimes, if they get the early lead through structures, they can kind of open up the lane. And then it's not super common in the quick match setting, I don't think, where they're intelligent enough to change from the death ball per se to then like, okay, we've opened up a lane, let's now fan out and push some other things. But you can sometimes see that in pro play, and not in pro play as much, but maybe in the Team League and Hero League settings, where, again, the team starts in a death ball to just kind of push at least a wall down and move down. But anyway, I beyond that, I can't really speak to standard response. Another general rule of thumb is if your death ball meets their death ball and you just crush them, do that again. Like I've definitely done that as well, where it's like, well, yeah, okay, sounds good. We'll rinse and repeat. But what do you guys think? Anything else to add?
I don't think there's really like a standard response.
Right,
first
right.
off, I will say, no, you do not form Voltron with your teammates. You form Megazord with your teammates. Duh.
Obviously.
But it's going to just depend on situation. If you are ahead, you can either then choose to form the Megazord and meet up with them, or if, just keep doing what you were doing to get ahead in the first place. If you're behind, then communication becomes very important, especially if you're not in voice comms, if you're in solo queue, pinging, because you don't want to be overextended. You want to be soaking safely because, like Multi said, they're going to be missing out on the soaking. So soak safely. If you notice they're down bottom, your top lane can extend out and push a little bit. Mid lane, keep an eye out, and then ping whenever they're headed top, and just kind of rotate. If you're smart about it, you can outmaneuver them to get your experience advantage back. It's also going to be very dependent, I think, on team composition. If you're even down a level, maybe 2 levels, not a talent tier though, or you're even, who has the better team fighting composition? If the answer is you, then absolutely you can choose to meet them head on and take that. If it's not, then you need to, do what your team composition is built around. It's just going to be very situational, I believe. But honestly, I really haven't experienced the death ball nearly as much as you used to. It used to be a huge thing.
It was almost a problem early on in the game's history. But
so thankfully it's not as bad anymore.
That's back when CC was much more prevalent, and you could chain the CC into just kill, and automatically put a team down 1 or 2 people in a matter of seconds. And that's not quite the meta anymore.
Yeah,
right. And especially with the laning changes, I mean, they're trying to emphasize and focus on a little bit of a longer laning phase with the changes with the globes and everything. So I mean, there's less incentive, I think, to run like an early mid-game death ball anyway. So maybe we'll see even less of it.
Yeah, and it's gonna maps are a big part too, because obviously if it's a smaller map, either 2 lane or even like Tomb of the Spider Queen, where they can rotate quickly, there's a chance that they might not be missing out on much experience, especially if they're doing, they're trying to do the meta thing and have one person top and then a 4-man rotation between mid and bot, which it's harder to pull off than, you would think. The pros make it look really easy. Then that's something that's harder to counter if your team can't do that, just because they can't rotate you.
Those type of rotations may not be near as effective anymore in this new world.
Exactly.
And McIntyre actually talked about it because it's much more efficient to push with your minion wave now than to just kind of leave them be and let them soak the ammo and then eventually just push in because the towers can't shoot back. They can always shoot back now.
Yeah.
And so, like he was saying a little bit in the interview, that 4-man rotation stuff might not be quite as prevalent as it used to be. Early game, it's really kind of interesting because soaking and staying safe is by far going to be your greatest defense against a kind of the death ball scenario in the early game. And a lot of times, especially in early game 2, you can actually soak both lanes. Just assume we're on a 3-lane map. You can soak both the other lanes and then put a 3-man defense against the death ball. And a 3-man defense with all your structures and stuff can normally, at the very least, hold them back or stall them enough that the XP that you're soaking that they're missing out on becomes a fairly big deal. And then you can slowly out-level them. Once you get to a certain point in the game, you do want to run together. You do want to kind of form the Megazord, so to speak, and you don't want people off on their own at level, 14, 15, 16, where they can easily be ganked by a roving squad of putty men. Since we're gotta watch for those guys, and they're deadly in force. But yeah, so it's more of a timing thing, right? It is a little map dependent. It is a little comp dependent. There will be some comps that push better than others, but usually comps that push are not as good as at team fighting. And so usually in that scenario, if they're 5-man pushing, you may have a comp that's better at team fighting and you can just take them head on. And that pushing aspect won't work. But otherwise, the biggest tips is just stay safe, stay soaking. And if you need to, put the 3-man against the death ball to stall them and to kind of beat them back a little bit. Because remember, you have defenses on your side as long as you react quickly enough to those pushes. And again, if you're soaking 2 more lanes than them and they're not getting kills along with the structures, you're still gonna be ahead in the end.
Exactly. Like American Madman said in chat, experience denial is as important as soak. And that is true. All right. We got one more question here from Macho King.
Yeah, this is a good one to cover today for sure. So Macho King wants to know our favorite change they made in the patch and our least favorite change. So for me, favorite thing for sure, and this is going to sound a little strange, but it's definitely the truth. The globe changes, guys. Like, I don't know why, but, when you went through the McIntyre interview there, he was talking about the kind of new, and we've even talked about it a little bit, the new mini game that takes place where you can deny the opponent's globes and all that stuff. I just love that because I've always kind of thought of the laning phase as a puzzle anyway. You kind of have to think through, okay, if I'm just sitting there, me versus Dahaka, for instance, I have to think through what is he capable of? What am I capable of? How aggressive is this guy? Is he really trying to land those Qs or is he just kind of hanging back, soaking? So it's already kind of a puzzle to solve in the first place, and anything that makes that more different and fun and interesting, which I think the globe change totally does, I'm just really interested. I kind of want to get in there and pick heroes that I think would be good at harassing people off globes and then just do that until I really get it down. So I'm super excited for that change. It was actually one of the BlizzCon things where I was just stoked with the idea of it. So, but I'm kind of a laning phase fan, just in general anyway. Not to the point of where I'd want to sit there and just farm creeps for a half hour, the other games. But I will say this, least favorite for the change here has got to be the introduction of Hanzo. Throwing shade.
You stole mine. No.
Did I? Okay. No, it's
Yeah,
all right,
ruined.
I'm being half sarcastic because I'm always excited to see new heroes, and there are things about his kit I like, but he is my least favorite Overwatch hero, I think. Maybe tied with Junkrat, who was another recent one that we've had. So I don't know. I think he's all right, but a little underwhelming for a end of the year cap off, I think, for me. But apparently you as well, Gizmo.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I like him in Overwatch. I do. I'm one of those guys.
You do?
I'm
Why?
one of
Do you
those
just
guys.
like shooting the same corner until someone dies? Because that's all they do.
I've got skill. I don't just shoot random arrows. I shoot for the kill.
Gotcha.
No, I'm not very good. TPK, how about you?
Favorite change. I I think I'm actually going to say stealth changes because I really loved the old stealth play style, but I completely understand why it was in a lot of ways oppressive, because it was an eye test. It really was. And if you couldn't see it, then you were at a severe disadvantage in the game. And plus, it caused a lot of heroes to be completely unviable outside of the competitive scene Zeratul was standing, just because he brought so much utility and so much mobility. But I'm really hoping some of these changes will actually bring some of these stealth heroes back into competitive play, back into higher level play, because a lot of them are really unique. A lot of them are really fun. Like, again, I'm a big Nova player, and so having the ability to be a little more active, but still remembering I need to watch my positioning is going to be really interesting. And it's nice because that does allow them to buff the stealth heroes some, because everyone can see them much easier. Camera change was awesome. Gosh, I can't really, I don't mind Hanzo. I don't.
Sure.
It's just
I don't either.
It's a take or leave him, really. I probably won't play him that much. He's just not my play style. I think the worst thing I could say about this whole set of updates is that there's a really expensive Christmas bundle that I can't afford.
Yeah.
That I wish there were cheaper Christmas bundles. Like, that's the worst I can say about this patch. As far as I'm concerned, this patch is like full of win. Like, there's lots of amazing changes, from the mercs to the camera to the laning stuff, the globes, the stealth updates. It's all stuff I think will be very healthy for the game going forward.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's hard to tell at this point. I think my favorite update is going to be the performance-based matchmaking, but I need to kind of see that roll out more and how it actually is going to work. So kind of tied with that is just removing ammo from structures. I think that is great. I potentially would like to see them prioritize heroes after, like, to not all the time, but if you damage somebody, they prioritize a hero to kind of fight off against a dive comp, but that might extend games, so I don't know. But least favorite is really hard for me too, just because all the changes are fantastic.
It was a hard thing to decide for sure.
I like the merc changes, but I'll say they're my least favorite for the fact that a lot of people don't know about them right now, and there's not a lot of visuals to help with that stuff. So that'll be my answer for now.
That's a fair point. I mean, it does make it kind of awkward.
Yeah.
At this stage, again, I still suspect that they're going to make changes like that to make it easier. But in the meantime, it is a little odd. I'll grant you that, especially when it's such a big deal as we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. There's one question I want to get to from chat here real quick, from Clean Cut Ninja, because I think it's a good question. It says, new to Heroes, when I play as a healer in Silver Gold, how do I respond when my team isn't soaking? Should I go soak the lane as the healer, or lose the experience and keep my teammates up? It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard choice to make. As a support character, though, especially if it's a solo support composition, you really need to be with your team just at all points. One of the things they did was try and, reduce wave clear for support. So even more so now, it's going to take you too long to clear waves. It's not like you can just go up, do it really quick, and then rotate back down to your team. And you never know when somebody's going to rotate up on somebody that you were supposed to be in lane with to get a gank. So it's really, as the support player, that's kind of just a decision that you make, that you really need to be with somebody on your team.
Some of it's character dependent, though. I mean, when you think about it, like Brightwing's a fairly decent one to do it with, just because you can kind of split soak and then phase shift in. But then on I think the other end of the spectrum there, Lieutenant Morales, if you're solo laning with her, you just may as well be AFK, because those auto attacks aren't pushing anything. Your healing can't go on anyone else, and you're just kind of wasting time. So she's definitely one to stick with my team. And you're right. I mean, generally speaking, most of the time, especially again, if you're on one of the supports that actually has a quest that you can work on from the beginning, be with as many people that help you with the quest, I say.
Mm-hmm. I know, TBK, you kind of answered that in chat already. But I thought it was a good question that maybe other people
No, it is.
wonder.
It's good.
No, that is a helpful question for other people because, yeah, as a support player, especially after that patch, there are very few wave clear supports now. I mean, Rhaegar can still do it. Like you said, Brightwing can still kind of do it. There's a few that can do it some, but you're going to be much more helpful to your team being with your team and enabling your team. Because even if you're not doing the quote correct thing and soaking all the lanes when you need to, at least maybe as your team is trying to push something or trying to kill somebody, you can be the one that keeps that person alive, or you can be the one that helps enable that kill. You gotta, it pretty much just comes down to, you gotta work with what you got. Right. And you're going to be far more successful being together as a team than split up solo doing stuff, especially doing stuff that you're not that good at.
Yeah, agreed. All right. I think that's going to about do it for this week. Before we get out of here, Multi, why don't you go ahead and tell people where we can be reached?
Well, you can find us in-game by typing /join.
What?
Holy crap. It looks like you can purchase loot boxes in Battle.net and gift them to friends directly now.
What?
Wait, as of when?
This is a new thing. This is
like just patch.
Just saw this on Reddit.
I'm checking this out right now.
Need to confirm.
Just saw
Okay.
this, guys.
All right, so Gizmo, you check it out. I'll give our little outro thing, but let's figure this out. Okay, so you can find us in game by typing /join space LOTS for Lords of the Storm. Or you can join our Discord, of course. That's as good a place as any. It's on bit.ly/lots Discord is the web link, but it's also sticky at the top of our Twitter, which is @Lords of the Storm. We're also on twitch.tv/Lords of the Storm, which is live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central every week. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. You can send us email with feedback or questions, especially if you're checking us out for the first time. Give us some feedback. Lords of the Storm at outlook.com is one place to do that. But there is yet a couple places, really. You could leave a iTunes review, Stitcher review. That helps us reach more people, and it just gives us good feedback. So we appreciate anything there. And if you really want to help out the show, if you guys have been following all this Patreon debacle, seems like things are pretty well cleared up at this point. If I last checked, right, TBK? Good to go? Patreon?
Yes.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is a Patreon for us, patreon.com/Lords of the Storm, where it's you have the ability to give what you deem appropriate for the show, if you'd like to. And, of course, if you don't like that sort of thing or can't afford it, we totally understand. We're still going to do this for free anyway. But we appreciate anyone that's given really any amount. And daggone, man, finally on there. He's been hanging out since the start.
I think he might be making a reappearance. But yes, so you can gift
I've confirmed
loot
it.
chests.
Yes.
Yeah. You can buy a 5-pack for $4.99, 12-pack for $9.99, 25-pack for $19.99, or a 52-pack for $39.99. And you can buy it or gift it.
Yep.
Well, happy Winter Veil.
Basically,
right there.
Yeah, go to the launcher, hit shop, click on the heroes icon, and it's here.
Yep.
I love that we were just talking about this earlier in the episode, and it literally is something that appeared in the last hour. You can gift winter loot chests. I would assume these will probably turn into regular loot chests as soon as the holiday is over. Makes sense, right? But yeah, that's really cool. Thanks, Blizz.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Mm-hmm.
We did it. You can also find us individually. You can find myself on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all those things at GizmoZord, as well as Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Central over on Convert to Raid presents the Battle.net News at twitch.tv/Convert to Raid. Multi, where can you be reached?
Oh, you can find me individually on Twitter at Multizord. Also, there's another show I want to point you at, The Cavalry, which is about Overwatch. It's our kind of sister show, Zord Network, on Twitter at The Cavalry Show. And they are occasionally, but mostly live Wednesdays as well at 7:30 p.m. on twitch.tv/The Cavalry Show.
And TBK?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and twitch.tv/TBKZord, where I normally stream Heroes Monday nights and then whenever else I find time for it. I'm also a writer on Heroes Hearth. You can find my content over there in blog posts on the site. Like I said, I do a lot of concepts, articles for HGC or just for game topics in general.
All right.
Very cool. I got to say one more thing before we end here, though. I got an idea, guys. Now that we can gift these loot chests, we should, for the same dollar amount, I'll gift you something, TBK. TBK can gift something to Gizmo. Gizmo, you gift me. And yeah, we spent the money. We could have just bought the loot chest ourselves, but it'll feel better because
it's the spirit of it, right?
Spirit of-
Yeah, 'tis the season.
'Tis the season.
I love you all.
Sounds
Ho,
good.
ho, ho.
We'll do it.
Merry Christmas.
Just a ring
Merry
of
Christmas
gifts.
to us.
Yes.
We want to give a special thanks to Blizzard for featuring us again on the launcher tonight. Appreciate it. All those that joined us, new and old. Our mod, Wicked Kitten. I want to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroborosode, for helping support the show. Yeah, we will see you all same time, same place next week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. Get out there and send some gifts. Gifts. And gifts. GIFs. Some GIFs. All the gifts, GIFs, things. We'll see you later.
Enough. I shall do no more.
Worst outro